Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. Episode 99. We got a good lineup for you ahead of UFC Vegas 64. First up, we're going to be joined by Grant Dawson to preview his kind of short notice fight against Marco Madsen. Really interesting chat with Grant, who said 6 people turned him down: Dan Hooker, Demirs Magulov, and a bunch of others. So he said he thought he's going to fight on this card or the MSG card. So he's been in camp for a while, although he only got the call about 2-3 weeks ago for this fight. This isn't a short notice fight at all for him, and he wants to make that clear that he's been ready for this fight. He actually thought he was going to fight Greg Gillespie, so he's been working on a wrestler. So he's really looking forward to this fight against Marco Madsen. We're then going to be joined by Chase Sherman to preview his main card scrap against Josh Parisian. Chase, coming off that big win last time out against Jared Vanderaa, saved his job. He was on a 4-fight losing streak. He knew he had to win that fight if he was going to remain in the UFC. He now fights Josh Parisian in a fight that these two guys kind of put together. They looked at thought this made a lot of sense. They actually went to the UFC, both of them, with this matchup. The UFC matchmakers liked it, and then the fight got created. We're then going to be joined by Mario Bautista to preview his fight against the returning Benito Lopez. Kind of an intriguing matchup. Obviously, Mario coming off that big win over Brian Keller, and he fights Benito Lopez. Hasn't fought since July of 2019, so obviously it's been a long time coming for Benito Lopez to return. And Mario says it obviously makes things difficult just because you haven't seen him fight, but he's very confident. He has all the tools to get this win, extend his win streak. And we close things out talking to Johnny Munoz Jr. to preview his fight against Ludovic Sholinian. Johnny Munoz coming off that loss to Tony Gravely. He believes he could be fighting for his job. 4th fight in the UFC. He knows he goes 1-3. It could be it. So there's a lot of pressure on him, but he's very confident he'll get the job done. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC lightweight Grant Dawson, who's finally got a fight. But Grant, how's it going, man?
It's going, man. Couldn't be happier.
Yeah, obviously a long time coming for this fight. Like, I know you've been on other people's shows kind of talking about this. Like, how kind of difficult has these past few months been trying to get a fight for you then?
Yeah, man, it all worked out because I've been through 6 different opponents, not including Mark, and they all just didn't kind of pan out. I said yes to all of them, and they're all booked against different people. But the date that I was supposed to fight has stayed the same. So I've been in camp for 8 weeks. My weight's good. My conditioning's good. I'm ready to rock and roll. So I'm very happy with the opponent. Very, very tough opponent. I definitely think the winner of this fight gets ranked. So I'm very happy about that.
Why do you think so many of those guys were turning you down?
I think that there's a lot of risk behind fighting me, but not a lot of reward because I'm not ranked yet, which is kind of ridiculous if you ask me. But if you beat me, you don't really get a whole lot because I don't have a number next to my name. And if you lose to me, you're just another guy on the list. And it's probably going to end up that way if you look at the people that I've fought in the past. So I definitely think the winner of this fight gets ranked. And I think that 2023 will be a lot easier to find me fights because I will have a number next to my name.
Were you surprised Mark took this on short notice then for him? Like, obviously he was supposed to fight Jakar. Like, are you kind of surprised he was the one to accept it?
No, not really. Mark is a competitor. He's a silver medalist in the Olympics for Greco-Roman wrestling. So he's definitely faced top-level competition before. The thing that I've been telling people is that this is not a grappler versus a grappler. This is a competitor versus a competitor. I've been competing my whole life. He's been competing his whole life. He knows how to win fights and win competition. I know how to win competition. So that's the thing that people should be excited about in this thing. Not who's the better wrestler. It's going to come down to who the better competitor is.
You're obviously fighting in a week. Like, to some, it might seem like short notice just because it only got announced like 2 weeks in advance, something like that, 2-3 weeks. But like, you kind of mentioned how you've been circling kind of this date and the MSG date, where I know a lot of opponents got out for you for those kind of 2 weekends. Like, what has camp been like? So obviously you didn't know who you'd be fighting, but then it was kind of always kind of trying to get ready for around this time.
It was a lot of preparing for the name. So it was like, okay, we're fighting this guy. So I started training for this guy. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, okay, he's out. We're fighting this guy. And then it was like, okay, 2 weeks later, we're not fighting him. But the majority of the name that I thought it was going to be was Gregor Gillespie. So I've been preparing to fight another wrestler. And I think that it kind of fits in there perfectly against Mark Madsen. So I'm definitely happy with my camp. I'm definitely happy with the way everything's going. If Mark Madsen does end up beating me somehow, on November 5th. It will not be because of a bad camp. It will not be because of a bad weight cut. He will have done that 100% Grant. So I'm ready for this fight. I'm excited about this fight, and I definitely think that this is a fight that I wanted, and I think that it's a fight that is going to propel me into the top 15, which is the most important thing right now.
Was it frustrating for you to see too, like the guys turning you down, then get booked against other guys on that same date and in that MSG card?
Yes.
With Mark too, like obviously very good wrestler. Like, what have you kind of made of his UFC run so far?
I mean, impressive. He's beat two very good veterans. He beat Vince Pichel, who's very, very good, and I'm blanking. Clay Guida, who is been around forever. So he's got some big names under his belt. My only criticism to him would be that he hasn't fought a hungry up and comer. He's fought guys kind of at the end of their careers, if you can say that, guys that are in their 40s or close to their 40s, and he's not finishing these guys. That's my only nitpick of his. He's a very, very good fighter. He's very good everywhere. He's very talented. If I have to nitpick at him, it would be those two things. He hasn't really fought a young, hungry kid ready to make a name for himself, and he hasn't really been finishing any. I don't think he has. He has one finish in the UFC. So those are my only criticisms of his. And moving forward, I think that this is going to be a very good matchup for both of us.
I was trying to remember the exact date, but I know it's been roughly kind of around a year for you in Florida. Like this past year, like how much do you think you have kind of grown as a fighter?
Oh, night and day difference. I moved to Florida February 13th. That was my first day in Florida training, and I haven't really left since. So I'm getting better every single day going with these guys. My confidence is at an all-time high. My conditioning is at an all-time high, and just everything that you can imagine, I do 10 times better now, and I can't wait to see how good I am in another 3 years.
Oh, then with Mark being such a high level wrestler, like have you brought in anyone, or is it just because ATT has so many guys that like you can just kind of go around the gym and pick certain guys to work with?
Well, with how late this fight got announced, bringing somebody in wouldn't really make any sense. And we have plenty of really, really good wrestlers. Nathan Schultz is the PFL former two-time champion. I've been training with him quite a bit, and I think that he's as good at what Mark does, and I definitely think that he's a better fighter. So getting rounds in with him, I think, is going to be something that gets me ready for this matchup.
How much of this is about just making this a fight and not just making this a wrestling competition with him? Because that's kind of what a lot of opponents have kind of fallen to do, is they get so worried about the wrestling that they kind of just let him kind of dictate where he can go the fight because they're so worried about him shooting.
I'm not worried about his wrestling. I think that if we were wrestling in a Greco match, he would tech fall me. If we were wrestling in a folk style match, I would pin him and or tech fall him. So I'm not underestimating my wrestling skills in this fight. I'm going to see if he can hang with me in the wrestling department. If he can, then we will fall back on the striking and the cardio and the conditioning and the submissions and the jiu-jitsu. But we're going to find out who the better wrestler is probably in round one.
Like, is this a fight then? Like, you're not scared for it to hit the mat? Like, you're kind of you'll welcome that, or is that one where you'd rather have it striking?
Oh no, we're hitting the mat. If this is a striking match, it's because he's stuffed every single one of my takedowns. I'm not. I'm fighting everybody the same way. I'm gonna get in his face. I'm gonna strike until the shot presents itself, and then I'm gonna dive on those legs and hope for the best.
Do you think that could throw him off, where he's been so used to him being the offensive wrestler, where like he kind of hasn't really had to defend a whole lot of takedowns in the UFC?
I think if he watched any one of my fights, he's got to know what's coming. So I definitely think he'll be ready for my wrestling. I definitely think that he'll be ready for an offensive wrestling attack. But I think looking in on my fights, you can only see what you can see. You can't feel what I bring to the table. And I definitely think that 2 weeks to get ready for my wrestling style isn't going to be enough. Now, if it is, then we'll fall back on the hands and we'll see what happens. But we're going to find out who the better MMA wrestler is real quick.
Your last fight kind of proved a lot, like kind of, well, not really proved a lot, but kind of silenced a lot of those doubters about your cardio, because that was a pretty insane pace. Like, is that part of the game plan here, is get another high pace going against Mark and see if he can kind of hang for that long?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially somebody like Mark, who is he is a little bit older. He's getting up there. I'm not saying he's past his prime by any means or anything like that. But as you get older, you get a lot stronger. But the conditioning kind of goes down a bit. And he's also known for being able to control the pace. That is one thing that he does incredibly well. He pressures with being able to control the pace really, really well. So my plan is to keep him from being able to control that pace, get him nervous, get him moving when he doesn't need to move, and kind of get that anxiety boiling.
How do you kind of see yourself winning? Like more times than not, like you're always kind of going for that finish, and you get it more times than not.
Yeah, man. I've got 18 wins and 16 of them are by finish. I'm coming out here to finish any way I can. If I can grab a neck, I'll grab a neck. If it's putting a knee across his face, it's putting a knee across his face. However I can get this finish, I'm going to do it. Like I said, though, man, he's a competitor. I'm happy with a win. If I win a unanimous decision, I'll be happy with that. If I win by finish, I'll be happy with that. Getting a win over Mark Madsen is the number one goal come November 5th.
Oh, we kind of talked about it earlier, but like we think a rank out, or at least a ranks next. But like, where do you think this kind of puts you? Because like I imagine for you, like hopefully it's a number, so then those guys stop turning you down.
I will be ranked in the top 15 after this win.
Do you still think you'll have trouble getting fights here in that top 15? Or do you think that's gonna what if it will really change?
I think that'll fix the problem. I think that the low risk, high reward. I'm sorry, the low reward, high risk will have stopped. I think it'll be high risk but high reward because there will be a number next to my name, and I think we'll be able to find a lot more fights. I'm thinking Tony Ferguson, Dan Hooker, guys like this next.
Plan to call anyone out, like a lot of those guys that turned you down, or is it just kind of see how everything kind of plays out?
The only thing that matters right now is Mark Madsen.
And just last thing, like kind of talked about it a bit earlier, but like at like 2023, like what is kind of the goal for you? Because if you get ranked for this fight, like that can set you up for a pretty big year.
Yeah, I definitely think everything 2022 has been one of the most complicated and most stressful years of my entire life. 2020 and the pandemic has nothing on what 2022 has done for me. I've moved. I've had to pay for 2 houses because we finally just got our house back in Missouri sold. I've got a new team, new coaches, new everything. I'm getting married. It's just been such a hectic year. So come January 2023, I am planning to have a smooth year of just training and fighting, training and fighting, training and fighting. And I definitely think by the end of 2023, come 2024, I will be in the top 10, if not the top 5, and looking at that big fight to push me towards a title shot.
Well, Grant, I appreciate the time, especially a week away from the fight, but thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, man, absolutely. No problem.
All right, we're joined by UFC heavyweight Chase Sherman, who's back in action here pretty soon. Chase, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You look pretty good. Poolside looks pretty nice. Like, just enjoying the next couple weeks before the fight then?
Yeah, man. Well, this is my where I live now, man. I got a little pool, South Florida living. It's nice, man. It's peaceful.
I guess that's the benefit of since going down to Sanford then for you.
Yeah, it's Killcliff now, man.
Oh yeah,
right. Killcliff now. Yeah, man. It's beautiful. I live like 2 miles from the gym, man. I can ride my bicycle to the gym, walk to the beach, do whatever. I'm blessed for sure.
With this fight, like it seemed like another one that it wasn't a whole lot of notice. Like it seemed like maybe 5-6 weeks. Like when did you kind of find out about this fight?
5-6 weeks from the last fight?
No, notice.
This one. This fight?
Yeah.
Oh no. I've had some notice. I actually got a full fight camp in this time. You know what I mean? We kind of approached Mick with the matchup because it was a couple different pages on social media had brought it up as far as being a possible matchup, and so we tossed the idea out there to Mick, and he loved the matchup, and so he got it set up, and I've known I don't know since either beginning of September or into August, somewhere around there.
Your last fight, like how big of a relief was that getting that win and just getting back into the win column?
Man, it felt great. it was just, man, it was just so much going on. Different parts kind of moving in my personal life and things happening, and dealing with those losses, and just moving out here to South Florida, and really started training like full time. Um, it felt really good, man. It really did. It was a it was a huge relief, and then to get the bonus as well. Like, I was just in a good place. I was in a good headspace, going into that fight. Even though that one was on super short notice. That was a couple weeks notice, but when you stay ready, you don't have to really get ready, and so we're expected here at Killcliff to be at practice every day. Unless there's some kind of ailment going on with your body, injury or whatever, or something going on personally, then um, you know we're still supposed to reach out to the coaches and let them know whether or not we're going to be at practice or not. And our teammates depend on us to be here and everything else. So we're training full time. You know what I mean? It doesn't stop. And when you're doing that, you're able to pick up the phone at any moment and answer the call. And so, yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
You mentioned you and your manager kind of brought this matchup to the UFC because you saw some stuff online. Like, what kind of intrigued you so much to ask for this fight against Josh?
Well, yeah, we had seen people talking about potential matchups. One was because he just came off a win, obviously, and two, stylistically, man. There's just some things there that I think playing in my hand, and we're trying to get the ball rolling, the momentum rolling, and get this thing going in the right track. And I feel confident in this fight. I feel confident in the matchup, and I feel confident in my abilities as a fighter, but even more so as an athlete. And I think that there's very few things that I'm trying to say this in the most humble way possible. But there's very few areas of the game that that he can he's better than me at. I just don't. And I think it'd be a fun fight. The way he fights, just stylist. It'd be a fun fight, man. It should be. It should be. I really am excited about this fight and showing off more of my skill set and what I can do.
We kind of mentioned there, like how you're always in practice at Killcliff, but like, who are kind of the main guys you're working with? Like, is it a mix of guys, or is it kind of the usual crew you've been working with?
We have some guys that come in, that mixes it up, but the coaches do a really good job of, what I mean? Like, we're not trying to be, American Top Team. We're not trying to be one of these other huge watered down gyms. We'll just let anybody come in so they can get, a fee from their fight purse. So really it's a team. And if you're going to be a part of this team, you have to, you have to show up and earn your worth. And so it's usually typically the same kind of guys, same kind of cats, unless they have somebody just coming in to try out and see how they like it. But yeah, so the guys that I work with typically are Linton Vassell. He's a Bellator heavyweight, fighting Bader for the title, I would imagine soon. Steve Mowry, he's also Bellator heavyweight. We got also some light heavyweights thrown in the mix, and that are PFL guys. Some other heavyweight guys that are PFL guys. Those are two of my big training partners right there. But there's a slew full of guys, talented guys, man, and just it's you get different looks in various ways. So it's a blessing, man. And everybody takes care of everybody. There's our egos are left at the door, and if they're not, then someone is going to check them whenever practice starts. So it's a good. Not so much even the location of the gym, in South Florida. Not so much even how immaculate the facility is. Not even the fact that we have there's people on the staff that is constantly pulling in sponsorships and getting us
Mhm.
gear, training gear, and supplementation, and all that. All those things are great, but it's the environment. Is what these guys have created, these coaches have created, and the vibe when you go there it's much different than any other gym that you go to, because this is an individual sport, and they've created a team environment there. You understand? And so if you go to a lot of different gyms, it's really hard to find that because everybody's kind of looking out for themselves. So that's one thing I've loved about it, because I've always came from a team environment. I played football from 5 all the way up to college. So, I've always been kind of a team player.
With Josh, like you've kind of talked about how you think it's gonna be a fun fight. Like, how do you think you match up against him? Because both of you guys seem like it should be a striking fight, and with that, like you kind of talked about, like it should be a very fun one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna go out there and plan on being the better athlete, man. For lack of better terms, I'm not gonna dive too deeply into what my game plan is, or what where I think he's vulnerable, or you know, all those different things, because none of that really matters. I know it, my coaches know it, what we're gonna go do, and then it's just all about going out there and executing it. And if I don't, and I say this, I don't say this arrogantly. I say this, out of deep-seated confidence. If I don't get a highlight reel finish, then I'll be slightly disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And so there's a whole bunch of there's a lot of tricks in the tool bag that I haven't ever used, that people haven't seen, because I've always kind of been hard-headed and only doing what I like to do. Doing all of that, what I mean. I like to just strike and box, and throw the occasional leg kick. But there's a lot of other variables that I'm excited to put out there, and let the rest of the division realize that I'm not just a one trick pony. So
You get that finish you're after. Like, where do you think that puts you in division? Because you fought like a lot of those guys, kind of are just outside of the rankings.
yeah, I have. I don't know, man. I'm not too concerned about that. Um, my thing is, I want to get the win and get a good win streak going. Um, you know, get my name out there more, because I have been with the organization for a while, and it's just my time. I put in the time. I've put in the effort, and I'm a veteran in that sense, and I don't know where it's going to put me. I'm not concerned too much about that.
Just last question for you. Like, you've had a very active year, like fourth fight already this year. So, like, I imagine this will probably be it, just because there's not a whole lot of cards after this one. But like, what is kind of the goal then for you next year?
Um, the goal next year, I just want to keep winning fights, man. That's it. You know, that's all I care about, and just
Mhm.
I'm trying to live my life now, like more like in the present moment, like where my feet are, and not be so fixated on whether my happiness depends on whether I win or lose a fight, but really just finding like joy and gratitude and the process, and every day like getting better, and being here has obviously helped with that a lot. And so I'm not really fixated on too much on you know how many fights I get next year, or who I'm fighting after this, or what. I have one task at hand, and that's beating Josh. That's it. you know and then we can address the other scenarios as they come along.
Well, Chase, man, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
All right, brother, take care.
Yep. All right, we're joined by UFC bantamweight Mario Bautista, who's back in action here pretty soon. Mario, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good, thank you.
Obviously, timing wise, like, what, basically 3 months, 4 months after your last one? Like, how happy are you to make this quick of a turnaround?
Oh, I'm super happy. Like this year has just been exactly what I wanted. I wanted 3 to 4 fights this year, and that's what I told myself last year that I was going to shoot for, and I've been doing just that. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Did the opponent catch you off guard? Like, how surprised were you? And you got Benito Lopez just because we haven't heard from him in a couple of years.
I was a little bit. I didn't know if he was like retired or what was going on with him because yeah, he'd been gone for so long. Um, a little surprised, but at the same time, it's been a fight that I've wanted for a while now, like going back to our amateur days. So I'm pretty excited about it.
So like, how familiar were you then with them if you guys were trying to fight in the amateur days?
I want to say we were matched up. This must have been like 2013, maybe for an amateur show, and maybe like in Lake Tahoe. But I think he ended up going pro and doing a Bellator fight. So yeah, that was that. And you know, we got into the UFC, and I was kind of talking to my manager, asking like if we could get him, and you know, it didn't happen, but you know, things work out, and here we are.
So when you got this name, like, are you excited then just because you want him, or are you a bit like disappointed it's not one of these higher ranked or well known guys?
Um, you know, I was excited for it. Two, because it's because of the fight that I wanted, and two, it's kind of like a different style matchup than I've had lately. You know, the guys I've had lately, they're kind of like 5'7", you know, shorter guys, all same stance, and so they're very similar. So to have this matchup, I'm excited for it. It's a different challenge. I didn't get this like preparation for Sandhagen, someone that's taller,
Mhm.
longer. So I'm excited for this challenge and to see what I could do.
And then do you look at his couple fights you'll see like he's 2-1, he beat Steven Peterson on the Contender Series, but like, do you look at those or do you kind of throw that out the window just because it's like 3 years ago since he kind of last fought?
I do look at those because you know what's the saying? Like you're only as good as your last
Mhm.
performance. So it has been a while. Um, but I try not to hold that against them. Whether if he's been in the UFC 2-1 or like someone like Kelleher that's had like 16 fights, I approach every fight the same. Um,
Is it hard to prepare for, like, not hard, but like harder than other opponents to prepare for him just because he hasn't fought in so long and you like don't know what he's been working on? Like he'd come out like a whole different style and everything since his last fight.
uh, no, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be changed much. Um, yeah, and I try not to focus like on what they're doing or what they could or what they've done. You know, I try to focus on myself and what I could do against that body type. And like I said, we're working off of like his performances in the UFC, and uh, and I don't know if he's gotten any better like during the time off. You know, I think he's went and got like a realtor license, and from what I hear, that's not easy, and I assume it takes up a lot of time. So I would imagine he didn't get too much better.
You are a tall bandweight yourself, but like he's a really like rangy guy. Like he's gonna have a bit of reach advantage. Like, how do you kind of prepare for that then?
uh, just through sparring. You know, like I said, these past few camps have all been similar. I've had like the same training or sparring partners for like these last 4 fights, I think it is. So this camp, you know, we're looking to like the taller guys, getting that range down, seeing how I can get inside, and just finding different angles and putting myself in different scenarios to make some damage.
Then with Benito, like how do you think you match up against him?
I think I match up well. You know, like I said, I'm not taking him lightly or anything. He's a good challenge, but I think I match up well, and I think there's some big holes in his game, um, and that I'm looking to exploit. November 5th.
How do you kind of see it playing out then? Because like obviously your last fight, you kind of called it perfectly. You said you were going to be able to get him out there. You did think it was going to be a bit later, but you got the submission you wanted. So how do you kind of see this one playing out?
I always say this every fight. Like I'm prepared to go like 3 rounds hard, like a war. Um, but I think he's going to come out hot, and I'm just going to weather the storm a little bit because I've had like long layoffs like that. And, you know, it's almost like making your debut again. You kind of get the nerves. You just want to get out there and get started right away. So I think he's going to come out hot. So I don't know if the fight goes more than 2 rounds. I think his cardio is not going to keep up with mine, and I'm seeing a finish maybe like in the 2nd or 3rd round.
That is something I want to touch on about his cardio, just because like training for a fight and just kind of like training your cardio is different. So like, how do you? And then you kind of mentioned there how like it's been so long with the ring rust and the nerves might be there. So like, with that, is that something like you can't really bank on though, and it's just like something you think might happen, or is it something like you think will happen?
I think it's something that will happen because it's like my style anyway. Like I like to push the pace. Like no matter if like you did take a layoff or not, I'm always going to push the pace and try to break you. So with him having that layoff, I think it's going to be hard for him to during his camp to get that cardio to where it used to be, or to know how it feels. Like when you take the long layoff, you kind of forget where you were, how to get back to there. And so yeah, that's what I'm keeping in mind coming into that fight.
Who are kind of the main guys working? Like obviously Sean's in camp, like he fights what 2 weeks before you. So like who are kind of the main guys you're working with?
Well, I've been working with Sean for like the past I think it's been like 2 weeks now.
Mhm.
So I've been sorry, Cole. Sorry about that.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, so with Sean, I've been doing a couple rounds with him for about 2 weeks now. So I've been working with Sean. Sean's a little different than Benito, but he does have that long range. So it's good work for me. And some of like the younger pros on our team, like the 45ers, we have some, you know, taller guys, rangier guys. So like I said, it's a little bit different camp for me and different challenges. And so we're working out the kinks right now.
You get past Benito and say you finish him, like where do you think that puts you? Because I thought you might have been able to get top 15 guy after the Kelleher win. I think it only strengthens that with 3 wins this year. It's like where do you think a win kind of puts you?
I'm hoping like right outside the top 15, if not the top 15, depending on my performance. But definitely after this fight, I want to start challenging myself and start fighting the elite guys of the division, you know, top 15, maybe someone right outside the top 15. But yeah, I do want to start moving up and start challenging myself and you know, get the show on the road.
Fighting early November, like I know there's only a handful of cards after you. So like what is kind of the goal then for next year? Because I assume this is probably going to be it for you this year.
Yeah, I want to start in the first quarter next year, have a good start like I did last year or this year. And if I can fight every quarter, if not 3 times would be ideal for me again.
Does this timing kind of work out perfect though, so you can kind of enjoy the holidays and you don't have to worry about a weight cut or a fight upcoming?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, because Thanksgiving, I get to enjoy that for sure. Christmas a little bit, you know, we'll see if I stay in town or go visit family. But yeah, I was looking forward to Thanksgiving this year for sure.
And your next fight, maybe back in front of fans again.
Oh, I hope. I wanted this fight to be in front of fans, but they told me about this fight maybe 10 weeks out, and I was looking. I seen Adesanya was the week after in Vegas, and I was like, yeah, that one's going to be in front of fans, and ours is probably going to be at the Apex again. So, yeah, hopefully next year, I'm ready to get back to the fans.
Oh, well, Mario, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Cole. I appreciate it.
Good.
All right, we're joined by UFC bantamweight Johnny Munoz Jr., who's back and actually pretty soon. Johnny, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on here. It's always a pleasure, Cole.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming back on. Obviously, returning in November, like basically what, like almost 5 months to the day of your last fight. Like, was this about the time frame you wanted then?
Yeah, somebody just asked me that actually. But yeah, it's perfect time frame. I think it was a good time frame. Just to refocus, get focused again, and get back on the saddle and come back. So I feel good. It was a good time.
Your last fight, what do you take away from that? Just because you kind of got caught early, like there wasn't a whole lot of fight in really there.
Yeah, I mean the last one. I mean, it's hard to really take anything. I feel like it wasn't. We didn't really get a fight. I felt like I was moving fine. Finding the distance. I felt I found the distance on him honestly, even though it was short, and I was okay because he couldn't touch me. I was just kind of flicking little things out there, but yeah, but then I got caught on the fence and shot in, and stupid that shit happened. But I mean, it is what it is, part of the game. So I'm refocused, and hats off to him for the victory. You know what I mean? He was jumping around, celebrating all over the place, which is, I mean, I don't know. I feel like my mindset really changed after the fight. Because I think celebrating's like I feel when people celebrate, it's because they're scared. You know what I mean? Like you see people overreact in fights, like they're afraid to be in the fight for one. Not that they're jumping around celebrating. They're just happy as fuck that the fight's over. And that's just something like I don't like. I've seen that. Someone told me that a long time ago, but like that's why I'm not celebrating after any of my fights anymore. So I should be comfortable, you know what I mean, in the cage. The octagon should be my home, and celebrating, jumping around, like I shouldn't be happy it was over. I should be more pissed off the fight's over. That's just my new mindset. Like, when I'm in there, I got to be comfortable. That's my home, so I shouldn't be happy that I got to leave home.
Is that something that you just really learned the last fight, or is that something like you've kind of thought about for a while, and the last fight kind of just made that clear that that's what you had to do?
Yeah, it was something that I was thinking for a while, but it just didn't click. But after seeing that, it was like, okay, like fuck all that. You know what I mean? It was kind of like similar. Sandhagen mentioned it. When Sterling beat him, and he was like, he just seen Sterling running around everywhere. He was like, fuck that shit. That needs to be me. But I was similar, but it was just more like, fuck that shit. But at the same time, I don't need to be doing that either, because I feel like I don't need to wake someone up. I don't want to celebrate because two reasons, you know what I mean? I should be comfortable in the cage. Most people celebrate because they're happy to be out of there. And then two, I don't want to celebrate on a guy and wake that dude up. You know what I mean? Like it happened to me. Like, I feel like it woke up and changed my mindset. And I feel like sometimes certain things could trigger somebody and make them more dangerous coming back. So I don't need somebody coming back to fucking kill me in the cage. You know what I mean?
And then with your opponent Ludovic, like how familiar were you with him? Like he was obviously on Tough, went 1-1 on Tough, had that debut against Jack Shore, but like how much did you know about him?
I actually know a lot about him, but I didn't know it was him. Because he looked different on the picture, the name. I didn't know his name, but then when I looked into it, I was, oh shit, I know this guy. You know what I mean? Interesting thing, I actually was back in 2020 at the PI. One time Ali, his manager, there was like a wrestling class. You know what I mean? So I happened to be in there because I'm friends with Dan Ige. Dan Ige told me to go do the class. So I went over there. Ludovic was actually there. You know what I mean? So my cousins got to roll with them. I didn't get the chance to roll with them. That day I rolled with a couple other guys, other like Russians or in the UFC. Magomedov Tiger, I think the guy that beat Peter Yan, like I rolled with him. Beklov, I think he's the 125. I don't know if I'm butchering the name, but I was rolling with those guys and a couple other guys. But Ludwig got to roll with two of my cousins, so that helped out a lot. You know what I mean? My cousins really told me what he was doing, what he was good at, and and then so I remember I was there when he fought Jack Shore. I was there in the crowd watching that fight. Obviously, I didn't know I was going to fight him at the time. That was a while back, but I was there for that event. And then, so when they told me that, I was like, I looked it up. I was, oh yeah, I know this guy. And then I've been going to Vegas a lot at the PI, so I'm running into him all the time, every time in the PI. So this camp is the first time I'm actually running into my opponent very frequently.
Do you take anything away from his fight against Jack Shore? Like, just because obviously he took it on short notice, like you don't really know what kind of fight you get when I think he only had like a week, maybe 2 weeks at most. Like, do you take stuff away from that, or do you still can you still take some stuff away from it?
I mean, yeah, you could say it was short notice, but then upon like studying him, I feel like he approaches all of his fights that same way. You know what I mean? Tries to walk down, pressure. He's like a zombie. He doesn't move his head, takes hits, keeps walking, and he'll get hit and act like, oh, it didn't faze me. But we all know when somebody does that, it hurts them. He just likes to play those mind games. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, there was nothing from watching some of his other fights. It's very similar. He just wasn't able to execute it on Jack Shore. I think Jack Shore implemented a good game plan.
Training camp, I saw you were working with Moreno. Like, how did that kind of come about?
Well, I know Brandon for years, so I mean, I've been training with him like consistently since 2020, I think.
Oh, I thought this was just new. I never knew you guys trained all the time.
Yeah, so I train in Sequence Jiu-Jitsu in Norco, Sequence MMA. That's my home gym, but I also train in Entrom Gym in Tijuana, Mexico. So Brandon invited me over there. So, I mean, I still train down. So I'm in California and Tijuana, Mexico a lot. But Brandon's in Vegas now full time. So I'll go to Vegas and train with him. So those are like the 3 spots I'm always at: California, Tijuana, Mexico, and Vegas. And they're all in the same freeway, obviously with hours and distance apart. But yeah, I'm always on the go. So
With Ludovic, like, how do you think you match up against him? Like, he's a guy that tends to go distance a lot. Like, how do you kind of see it, or how do you see matching up against him?
yeah, I think I match up great. You know what I mean? He's a wrestler. I'm an average jiu-jitsu background. So, and I feel like on the floor, I mean, if he does try to take me down, I know how to wrestle too. A lot of people don't know that, but I mean, you'll find out. I think I'm a better wrestler than him, but that's why we're gonna fight. You know what I mean? But I'm not there to show I'm a better wrestler. I'm there to show I'm a better MMA fighter. But I think wherever this fight goes, I feel I'll be able to control it and execute my game. But he's a tough dude, but I'm not taking nothing away from him. But you know, this is November 5th is my time, so I got to send him packing.
Back at the Apex, like, do you like that, or do you wish it was in front of fans?
I wish it was in front of fans. It's different. You know what I mean? If I at the Apex, I mean, I'll do it, but there's nothing like fighting in front of fans, man. It's totally different. I prefer it. I know there's some fighters prefer fighting closed in like that, but I rather fight in front of the crowd. You know what I mean? Like my fight when I fought in Texas, that I was like, oh shit, it felt like, man, it's different fighting in the Apex in the crowd. I feel you get the full UFC experience when you fight at a live event.
Is there any pressure going on you? Just because I know, like, or going like on you heading into this fight, just because I know most contracts run 4 fights, like 1 and 3, like, you never know. Like, is there pressure? Do you kind of have to not think about that? It's just one fight at a time.
Yeah, I mean that's there, but I try to just be in the present. You know what I mean? I think that's the most important. I think some people, I feel like when you worry about, oh, I gotta win this fight, or like, oh, you know what I mean? Like I'm focused on the moment. You know what I mean? And the most important is being in the present. You know what I mean? I think all great performers, regardless where they come from, if they're a communication speaker, basketball, any kind of athlete, the fucking president. You know what I mean? Even though I don't like the current president now, but yeah, I mean, I feel you got to be in the moment. You know, when somebody's up there giving a speech, they're not thinking about, fuck, I got to do this next week, or I got to, you know what I mean? Or, you know, Michael Jordan, when he's on the basketball field, he's not thinking about, oh, fuck, tomorrow I got to play these guys again. You know what I mean? Or, you know, next week I got to play the Lakers. You know, he's in the moment. And I feel like to be great, you got to really, you know, tone it down to being in the moment, living in the moment, performing in the moment. And I feel that's where you get results.
Is this the last fight on your deal though, or have you signed with, or you signed a bit longer?
No, this is the last fight on this deal. So, but we're gonna sign after this. So I put this guy away and then we'll re-sign.
Yeah, well, with it, just kind of building off that, like, how do you kind of see yourself winning? Like, more times than not, you're always finding that finish, and more times than not, it is a submission.
Yeah, I mean, I see this fight. You know, he's a tough dude, but I see myself subbing him. If we go to the ground, he's getting subbed. You know what I mean? There's no, he ain't gonna escape. So I'm subbing this guy. If we stay on the feet, you know, he likes to walk forward, doesn't move his head. So I'm just gonna keep hitting him until he falls. You know what I mean? I feel like he has no head movement. He just walks forward. So I just need to hit him and then to get him to shoot. Maybe something will open up, you know?
Oh, what do you think a win does for you, especially if you go and finish him? Like, obviously, I think that gets you re-signed, and like a guy like Jack Shore, even though it was on short notice, couldn't go and finish him.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know what I mean? So finishing him, I think, makes a statement. That's a good point. Shore couldn't finish him. If I looked at his losses, I don't think he's been finished that I recall. So
Yeah,
it would be
no,
cool.
both by decision his losses.
Yeah, so
And
see,
even
that's the
on his
thing.
loss in Tough was a decision loss.
Yes. So that's the thing too. So me finishing him, I think that makes a statement, and I think that's going to show a lot for me. You know what I mean? And I believe I could finish him, but at the end of the day, this is a fight. I'm going in there to fight. Doesn't matter if I finish him 1, 2, or 3. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like if I put him there, he's going to get finished.
So you get your hand raised then, like what you just kind of circle back to how we started this, like what is after the win look like? Is it just like no celebrating at all then, or like how does it kind of go for you?
Yeah, I think after I win, it's just I've seen it in my head already. Like I shouldn't be surprised. That's the other reason. Like why am I so fucking surprised I won? You know what I mean? I already knew with my preparation and leading up to the fight, like this is what the results should be. So like I shouldn't be surprised. So I mean, afterwards, just me winning. I might put my hand up, and I ain't gonna jump around all over the fucking place. Like, 'cause at the end of the day, I'm not. It's not the end goal, man. Winning the fight, is part of the goal. But I'll celebrate when I become a UFC champion. You know what I mean? Because that's at the end of the day, that's the end goal. I see a lot of guys like when I got in the UFC, like I didn't. It was whatever to me. Like obviously, I was happy. Like I'm finally here. But I always knew in my head I'd be there. So it wasn't like calling all these fucking people or hey, I'm in the UFC. That's the thing I see a lot of people make the mistake. They get in, they celebrate, they're living the moment. They put the jacket on, the UFC jacket. They're doing all the pictures. They're letting everyone know I'm here, and then they fucking lose their fight because all their energy was focused on being happy they got in. So my energy's focused on winning this fight, but at the same time, my energy's focused on the end goal, and that's being the best in the world because I feel whatever it is you do, you should try to be the best at it. Because if you're not going to try to be the best at it, why the fuck are you even doing it? And if you're not going to try to be the best at it, then someone else is going to be the best at it. So why not you?
Just last thing, like what is kind of the goal then for next year? Like I imagine this is probably it for you just because there's not a whole lot of cards after this one. So what is the goal then for next year for you?
Yeah, I mean, the goal next year is, fight. You know what I mean? If I could fight 4 times, that'd be great. And just climb up the ranking. Not even the rankings, but just showing the UFC that like I'm somebody like a player to be recognized in the division. You know what I mean? Because nowadays rankings, I don't even think rankings fucking matter, dude. Like you see certain guys that are not even ranked, but they're getting more money, they get more publicity. So I mean, sometimes that'll get you there. Sometimes it's better to go that route because it seems like those guys are getting a smoother route to the top. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just really fighting consistently next year, having good performances, and showing Dana White, Mick, Sean, Hunter that I'm somebody they can rely on that's going to bring good fights, good business to the company.
Well, Johnny, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks again.
Yeah.